Whatnot has this really special discount with the U.S. Postal Service, and I'm not sure how they exactly negotiated this, but anything between 1 and 5 pounds will be shipped at really low rate. I've been selling a lot on Whatnot. I also host the Ship Show on Whatnot Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And so for whatever reason, I've kind of become like the go-to shipping guy. The other thing I love about Whatnot is they do give us a little bit of goof room because we do get a few adjustments each week. And as long as we don't go over our allowance, then they'll cover the shipping cost if we underestimate. Go ahead and go to the link in the description. They're giving new customers $15 to shop on Whatnot. So you definitely want to get in on that promotion if it's there whenever you see this. Click that link and then you can start watching the shows. One of the things that is the most frustrating for online sellers can be shipping, especially people who do it part-time. They're on multiple different platforms and everyone has its own unique rules. I will tell you that my number one business expense ever since I started selling stuff online has been shipping charges. With Whatnot, the buyer pays for the shipping, and as a seller, I just have to make sure that I get a pretty good approximation of how much the item's going to weigh. And then I set up my shipping profile before the show. By default, if I don't go in and change any settings, they've got it set up for low cost shipping. Less than a pound, we start with Ground Advantage. Between 1 and 5 pounds, you're upgraded to Priority Mail. And then anything over 5 pounds, we're going back to Ground Advantage, but it is a low rate class, so you're not going to see that much higher charge. Priority Mail, flat rate box, this is their large size. It's about a third of what the current retail rate is. That's a really good savings. I want to make sure everything gets packed up securely. It doesn't really matter what the weight is. I don't want to skip on packaging materials. I am just bubbling and I'm going to be boxing and I'm going to be packing as much securely as I think I need to so that this dinnerware doesn't arrive broken. I also like to write thank you on every packing slip. And I've sold in several different categories. One category that I haven't really sold a lot of is like vintage, antiques, and I would love to be able to sell more in the home category. That's what I would love to be able to do. Because I don't sell a lot there as of now, I do have to kind of start my prices a little bit lower, and I have to be okay with accepting a $1 bid if that's the price I'm starting the item at. And I am okay with it. That's kind of what happened on quite a few things. So I started the bids at $1, and these are things that I've had for a while. Some of them I've tried to sell on different platforms and they just haven't. And now it's gotten to the point where I'd rather have the space. I mean, that is kind of what originally started me online selling. Was I was getting such super savings, great deals, clearance, buyouts, all of the above, but then I just needed space to store it. And so I started selling some of that online a couple of years ago. It's been going really, really well. But Whatnot has allowed me to sell more things faster than I could have ever imagined. It's not necessarily going to get the same price as if I was selling it on a different platform where it's going to be there for a longer period of time. But just to be able to clear out like a bookcase or a shelving unit of stuff that I just don't have a need for, I love that. And since the buyer pays the shipping, I'm very happy with the whole situation. But please don't expect to get $1 items on the internet. Some customers who wanted some of these things, some of these were antiques, like antique plates. This is actually not really antique. It's Wellesley by Catherine. I will mispronounce that last name, but I'll hold it right up there. And this was very popular in like the late 1990s, like kind of Y2K era. Sold a plate and a bowl. Some people, they don't want a full set. They just want what they want, and they can get that by bidding on Whatnot. So I was very okay with this. So getting back to the Ship Show, it has been an interesting development process because I know what I know based on my experience in the categories I've sold in, and that I'm, comfortable selling things. Different sellers from different categories started finding it. And I love that because along the way, they've brought in some really good ideas and suggestions and things I wouldn't have thought of if it's not a product that I've sold before or that I'm just not familiar with. So the way that clothing sellers package and send out their items is going to be different than the way that plant sellers, believe it or not, Whatnot has a lot of people who sell live plants. It's going to be different than that. Those packages are going to look different, and they're just going to have to make sure that the items are arriving safely. So I think double boxing is the sturdiest, safest way. With flat rate, I'm not as concerned on weight. I'm concerned about the item getting there safely. Whatnot has its special deal worked out with the Postal Service. I hope that doesn't end. I really, really do. I say it all the time. I try not to jinx it. But then if you're a new customer, what I do is every time a customer's new, they haven't made a purchase from me before, I pause in the show and I explain the way the shipping is priced. Because I think that that is something buyers, once they're aware of it, they're much more likely to bid on multiple items that is going to lock in at £1, and it's not going to go up until they're over £5. So they might double, triple, or even quadruple their order. That would be fantastic. That saves everybody time and money, and I am a big fan of doing both. Okay, look at that. Look at how perfect that is. Look at how fantastic that is. So I will weigh it just for fun, but it won't make any difference because this is a flat rate pack. Okay, so here's the news. This would have been £4. So it didn't have to go in a flat rate box. It could have gone in a different size priority mailer or even a plain box. They'll accept those. But this one did seem to work just perfect for one bowl and one plate. Again, focusing on making sure that it's got enough protection. So we're going to go ahead and put our packing slip on top. I always want thank you to be the first thing the buyer sees when they open their package. So I handwrite that on every one of them. And let's see, what can I not show? There's too much information at the top, so I can't really show it. But yeah, and as long as I can get this closed and it's not bursting apart, and it really isn't. It's just full. It's filled to the edge, really, is what that is. Because anytime you're shopping online, you know what you're ordering, but you don't really know what you're getting until it shows up. And so when people open a package, it's like walking into the front. Okay, so like this is like the outside of a department store, for example, or maybe just a store that sells plates and bowls. But once you open it, it's like you're walking inside the store. And so I always want that to be a good first impression, which is why I pack things the way that I pack them. I try to make them as presentable and secure as possible. With that Whatnot discounted rate, every time before they bid on an item, it'll show you shipping and taxes. I don't talk about my customers, so I'm telling you my experience as a seller, somebody who's selling the item. I'm not saying the buyer, and you can't see that label. Good. Okay, hold on a second. I gotta get my little paper trimmer. So I'm gonna slide this in. I'm going to try to get a little bit of use out of this. So if you do have questions, put those in the comments. I'm definitely looking at the chat every time I turn. Overall, I think that Whatnot does try to make it a very simplified and easy process for sellers to ship things, as well as for customers. And for that reason, I encourage people, if they've been approved to sell stuff on Whatnot, I encourage them to just start. You don't know what you don't know until you start. And there are so many sellers who will lend their advice and help you out and kind of sometimes even get you out of a jam if needed. But I've gotten a lot of help along the way. Whatnot, because it's kind of a closed community, you have to have an account to sign in. But if you just want to do more viewing at first, that's totally fine. But because it's not everybody on the internet, there's not a lot of problems as far as, haters are concerned. Haters love to hate, but they're going to have to find a different place to do that. I just slipped a printed label inside one of these, basically, and I closed it. I put a little priority mail sticker on top. But I will also secure that with another piece of packing tape because I don't want the label to peel off. Or the little plastic holder, I suppose. As I mentioned before, every platform has its own unique features, and I kind of want to, since I'm packing Whatnot orders, I kind of want to stay on point. I'll just peel that right back off. So this is how it turned out. This is how the customers are going to receive it. There's one more thing I'm going to put on here, and this is something I'm very proud of. Bishop Show is we developed these cards. We've been using them, and they've been nothing but good. Okay, so it says, save some trees, send some green. And that's where it explains that $15 promotion that Whatnot has for new customers. So since this was purchased by a Whatnot customer, the goal is to have that person reuse it and send it to somebody. It could be a birthday present. It could be a holiday gift. It could be just because I got to ship something to you. If they can reuse any of the packaging that we send out, all the better. A sturdy box can make its way 7 to 9 times through the shipping process. And a lot of Whatnot sellers are very environmentally conscientious, and they know that, wasting paper, wasting materials is, in the long run, it's very costly, because even if you recycle, recycling uses a lot of resources, including water. With paper, it's going to use a lot of water. So yeah, it's much better to get as much good use out of it the first few times than it is to recycle it. So encouraging that good behavior, helping out a friend, giving them some shopping dollars, that Whatnot's giving them. I'm not giving them those dollars, but Whatnot is. I just think it's a win-win all around. So the thing about these is they are handmade or printed in small batches, and I do have to kind of improvise as far as how I stick them to the box. But they've made it there, and people, again, nothing but good feedback. So you can always go online. Well, once you've set up your profile, you can go online and you can read reviews for any seller. And I've got 5-star reviews. And so many times, especially early in my Whatnot selling time, and I've only been doing it about 6-ish months, but very early, people started mentioning the packaging. They were impressed by how well packed things are. And I just had that instinct from selling on other platforms in the past and not wanting for things to arrive broken, because that's a total waste. It's a waste of the customer's money, the shipping cost, the item expense. It's just, I did not want stuff showing up broken. And I want everybody to have a good shopping experience overall. So I put a little extra time and attention there. But the customers noticed. They definitely left comments, and you can read all of their comments. Once it's on the internet, it's on the internet. So I just don't talk about my customers, but I'm telling you, there are a lot of 5-star reviews that go into a lot more detail than what I'm giving you here. Okay, I did not do this the way I probably should have and started peeling it first. But that's because I wanted to focus on you. I was a little distracted, and I'm just making sure I'm keeping up with chat. Okay, good. So we're good. What other questions have come up recently about Whatnot? I don't know. It's been around a couple years, I think. I'm doing this in like midsummer 2024. It's been around a couple years, but it's still growing. People are still finding out about it new every day. And if you haven't actually seen the shows themselves, you might not know what low prices things can go for. And it always depends on the type of item, the person selling it, how many people are bidding in the shows. But the smaller shows, and some of the smaller categories tend to have the lowest prices and the best deals. And I have bought stuff on Whatnot, and I am very friendly to other sellers. I tell them, look, if you want to buy this stuff and resell it on one of your shows, it's not going to upset me. I mean, I take that as a compliment. So yeah, I have no problem with that. Sometimes on some of these shows, like this was a pop-up, so this really wouldn't be applicable, but sometimes I'll actually print out like a little card that's just a graphic of the show thumbnail. I'll mention the next time it's going to be repeating, because I do 2 weekly shows at this time. I do a craft show and I do the ship show. Every week there, I keep the time and days consistent there. So the ship show is Thursday 1 p.m. Eastern. And as of this upload, the craft show that's a raid train where we just go from one seller to the next, to the next, to the next. And I'm the one who's been starting the raid train. I've had a lot of fun with it. But I can't say that time and date will always be forever, because I'm not the seller who organizes the raid train. And sometimes people do better if times get shifted. Sometimes people do worse. And I found it out both ways. There have been times that I filled in for other sellers if there was like an emergency. And some of those shows have gone really well. And some it's like, oh, you did not want to see my stuff. You definitely came here to see what other types of craft supplies, you know, are usually sold in that hour. And if I don't have it, I don't have it, you know. But some people sell like jewelry, beads, fabrics, and have an extensive collection. And so the stuff that I tend to have is usually brand new quality stuff. Just stuff that basically you could find on a store shelf, except I bought it on clearance most likely. Anytime that happens and I can get a super deal on it, I will gladly buy what I need and then sell any excess. And I do donate things and I give gifts, but even with all of that, I always end up with more than what I'm comfortable storing. And every season, you know, they come out with more and more new things. So, especially in the areas of like home decor, and even craft supplies. Craft supplies, they'll change the packaging, maybe not do much to change the product. But it's so funny because one pack of markers might be sitting there 90% off on clearance. It definitely pays to do some price checking, price comparisons. Okay, so this was kind of the best way I could do this because I want the card to stay with the box. So I was able to put the card on the side here, and I've still got the address label there. I will remove that privacy sticker and call that one good. So that was one package. So it's got a bowl and it's got a plate inside. And they're both from the 90s. They're vintage, so I can't go back and identically replace them, but I do have extras if one were to arrive in any kind of damage situation. But not always, you know, with auctions. The thing with Whatnot that I really enjoy is you see exactly what you're getting. There's no guesswork, okay? So if somebody really wants to see, does it have scratches? Are there any chips? I can show them that. But for example, if somebody's trying to do like the best two matching and I have several of something, if somebody wants to bid on and win two of them, I want to give you the best color match. So I'm actually going to put them side by side and figure out which ones those will be. And they usually are, you'd never be able to tell any difference in color, but if something's mass produced, it can have a slightly different shade. These two have very light distressing, so you'd want to kind of keep that consistent. So yeah, things like that I can do live online, but in internet world it would really be impossible for me to basically provide that level of service. Because what I call blue, somebody else might call green. What I say is a scratch, somebody else might say is a chip. You know, so just having the actual item itself and showing them what they're going to be getting, that is beautiful. And it saves me so much prep time and that way I can do a few other things. I have been adding, oh my gosh, you should definitely be subscribed to my YouTube channel if you're watching this. I've been adding more and more YouTube videos on various topics because I've gotten so, I don't know, ghostly, shall we say. And I didn't intend for that to happen. Initially, when I started selling on Whatnot, I thought this was going to be like the perfect best of everything. And it kind of is. It's about 95%. But the thing that I was thinking was I could do simulcasts on YouTube and on Whatnot. And that would keep videos fresh. People can ask questions. And I can talk about the topics they want to hear about. So I thought that would be so super. And if you go back and watch one of my earliest live streams, they did have it set up where it was, I use Android, they did have it set up where the two platforms would live stream together, but in my experience, it just disintegrated. The speed was so bad, and I just kind of had to pick a favorite. So I had to pick Whatnot because obviously it's a live selling platform. I can't afford or risk to have like 10-second gaps where then it like kind of like it kind of disintegrates, then it kind of, you know, comes back together. So that's why I haven't been doing the YouTube lives. I've been doing the Whatnot lives because I've been selling the stuff on Whatnot. And I'm already pre-packaging another Save the Trees and Send Some Green label. And I know this again is not high efficiency to do it, but this is kind of like work with what you have. That is one thing I also tell sellers, experienced and new, is obviously I've been selling on different platforms. So I have things like branded label tape and some supplies. However, if I didn't, it's okay. I'm going to work with what I have. And that is one other thing that I love about Whatnot. And eventually I think we'll get to talk a little more there on the ship show, is Whatnot does not have any branded packaging that they sell. So as long as I'm comfortable with the way it looks when it goes out, I can put it in whatever packaging I choose. And that is so nice because, again, I'm trying to create that lasting impression that brings the buyers back to buy more. The more people on a platform, overall, the better. It might seem a little counterintuitive because you might think about competition, but at this point, I don't think we're there yet. So the more active users any platform has, the better it is, because it's going to attract sellers, and we're going to give out our better deals, and we're going to be showing our better products. So it really does enhance things that way. And Whatnot doesn't have any branded packaging supplies, so I can just use my own. And I've been doing that. And maybe that's kind of what struck that first wow impression that got me my first 5-star positive feedback. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what it is, because so here's the thing. Again, talking about my experience, not about a specific customer. I have asked people, I have put them on the spot. I have said, I want you to tell me what you remember about your order when you got it. And because the way that I, number one, the way I wrap the items, then also the way that I kind of stack them in, and always making sure that they see that handwritten thank you as the first thing. There is a psychology behind that. And sometimes when I ask them, I don't give them any hints or clues. I'm just like, I just want you to tell me, what did you think? What did you notice? What did you like? And they actually pick up on those things. They're like, well, I remember it came in, and then they'll describe the outer packaging. Ding, ding, ding. Just like I said, it's kind of like a store, okay? But you don't quite know what's inside. And then when they opened it, they saw the packing slip with handwritten thank you. And they'll even tell me these things. Platform I'm selling on, and again, we are not going to get lost in the weeds here. So this has been fun. Okay, so that was like the easiest one to ship because I didn't even have to really weigh it out right box. Since I've been going the basics, I already covered the basics in the first part of the video. I will give a few pro tips. I'm just trying to think of how I'm going to do this. Okay, so the next order, here's a pro tip though. Anything less than a pound, it doesn't count toward the free allowance. It's just allowed, because Whatnot, again, they want us selling the stuff. They don't want us sitting here fumbling with scales. That's a good thing. I agree 100%. So if I think it's going to be a half a pound, but it's really going to be 3/4 of a pound, it's okay. I just type in the correct weight before I print out the label, and the customer's paid what they've paid. They're not going to get charged again, and I'm not going to get charged either. I have struggled and stressed on other platforms with that, because sometimes it's like, oh, there goes any profit potential. But yeah, because Whatnot's been very kind, generous, and forgiving with the under 1 pound adjustments. I do love that, and I think people should be aware of it. Don't abuse it, but it's there. And so anytime I have to go over 5 pounds, I have to sort of rethink things, and altogether this order would definitely be over 5 pounds. But what I chose to do is I can unbundle this. And so I actually chose to unbundle it into 2 separate packages, because I'm shipping different types of things, and I want to make sure they all arrive safely. So I'm shipping 3 of these glasses, 2 ceramic mugs, this gorgeous, there's a glass inside, this gorgeous metal watering can that really doesn't have any scratches, dings, or damage. And I've had that out there on the internet, and people just did not take me up on it. And so finally it went on Whatnot, and everybody said, oh yeah, I'll take that. So I've got some nice things. I've got some glassware, I've got some one dented, and I've also got this basket. Isn't this the cutest basket? Baskets are so lightweight, but they do take up space. So anyway, I knew that because I've got, kind of like long and tall with shorter, bulkier pieces, it was not going to be a good combo. So I just I used a free allowance to split up the order into 2 separate boxes. And so now I'm just having to finesse what I want to do with, because one of them is priority mail, I want to do with the non-priority mail, and it's really going to be this oversized piece. How I'm going to arrange that and what type of packaging I'm going to use. I may not be able to use priority mail standard box sizes. I might have to find just another box that I have to do this with the other stuff, to make sure that there's enough space, there's enough bubble wrap, there's enough padding, and we stay within our 5-pound allowance. This will not fit in flat rate. So that was kind of off the table from the get-go. But here's one thing I can mention, because if you're watching this far, I can tell you are interested in learning about shipping and learning how to do things the right way. You're not trying to cut corners. If you're watching this far, I will say this. On the seller screen where you go in and you can do your adjusting, you can adjust your weights, you can unbundle things. So if I'm going to ship in 2 boxes, not 1 package, that's unbundling. And if the customer originally paid 1 to 5 pounds priority mail, I can switch that into a US flat rate package, assuming the item will fit. So weighed priority mail packaging looks different than flat rate priority mail. So this is an example, and it just says mailing box. Books alone are 6 pounds, and we also have to factor in the box weight and stuff. So anyway, if I can't get it under the 5 pounds there, I can switch over to a flat rate label, and as long as they fit inside this box, there's no price difference. How fantastic! I mean, that is so super, and nobody's money is getting wasted that way. I absolutely love that. This separate order did require a little more finessing, and that's why you want to go back and watch all of my past episodes on the Ship Show, where I kind of go step by step a little bit more, because usually what happens is a seller comes in and they will ask a specific question, and we've as a team, as a room, as a chat, as a group, we've gone step by step. This is exactly what you do. This is the menu you're going to go to. This is the setting you're going to use. This is where you need to change it. I mean, we just really kind of handhold people if they're at their computer or have their mobile device and can do that. Another thing with Whatnot that I love and have used successfully, I think in a few occasions, is co-hosting. I know you love listening to my voice, and that's why you're going to want to watch all of my past videos. However, sometimes my voice does get a little dry. Let me get a sip of water just to demonstrate for you. It's not always this bad. Okay, hold on. If you're really getting sick of my voice, with co-hosting, what it does is it lets me put a second person on screen. So it just splits the screen in half. And even though if it was my auction to start, I'm going to be the one responsible for selling this stuff. The co-host isn't going to get paid based on anything I sell, and they're also not going to be able to fulfill any orders. That's still going to be my responsibility. But they can help out with things throughout the show that might otherwise throw a buyer off. I've seen some people use this for like demos where, let's go back to craft supplies. I'm selling craft supplies, but somebody might be demonstrating a project using those types of craft supplies. That's a perfect example. Like in home decor, that is, oh gosh, that's like, there's endless opportunity there. Cooking. I know that we have kitchenware. That's one category. Go on Whatnot, look through all the menus, because this is always going to be changing as the platform grows. But make sure you use the link in the description box so that you didn't sacrifice that $15 promotion at the time I'm up. This is going live. Make sure you don't give up that reward. But use that link, get yourself signed up, and then you can kind of browse, and you'll see all these different categories where it's like, yeah, one person can really focus on the customer, and then the other person can actually focus on showing how the product works. That's ideal. Okay, shipping challenges. Yes, sometimes I have, and I really try to pull back and not do this. But I really, because I know Whatnot shipping rates are so good, I really hate to see a sale lost because of it when it doesn't have to be. And it's all if the shipping settings are maybe a little too high, if people are overestimating before they start their show. You can't change the shipping settings during a show, so you got to roll with it. But yeah, one time I was actually winding down. I had like several shows that day, and so I was just going to watch a seller and listen into a totally different category, collectibles, plush toys. I don't sell those anyway. And they had a lot to choose from, like a lot, like literally like a little boutique shop full. And so I saw people noticing in the chat that the shipping price seemed to be coming out high. And really what was happening is they weren't bidding on the items, and the items themselves were priced low. They were priced very competitively. So the seller kept lowering the auction price to try to get bids, but it was really the shipping cost that was throwing people off. And so I started to chat with like one person, and then another person started asking shipping questions, and then it really started getting confusing. And this was a newer seller. And so I said, do you just want me to come on and give you the basic, 5-minute explanation of how Whatnot shipping rates work? And they agreed. And so I did that because I found myself in a little bit of a crossroads where I'm trying to give you the honest, truthful advice answer to the first person, but the second person is asking something different. So I just did my basic explanation, which is less than a pound, we start with ground advantage. Between 1 and 5 pounds, you're upgraded to priority mail. And then anything over 5 pounds, we're going back to ground advantage, but it is a low rate class, so you're not going to see that much higher charges. From my memory, this show was set up as a flat rate show. So it just assumed that all these pieces were going to weigh between 1 and 5 pounds. And with some plush, they don't. So anywho, not to embarrass anybody, show went on. People were comfortable placing bids now. Everything was fine. Next show, I didn't say a word, but I popped in on it, and I noticed that they had optimized their shipping settings. So I was like, yes, thank you. Perfect. Good. And they made it to their first sales goal really, really fast. I was impressed because Whatnot will start taking you seriously as a seller when you hit 1,000 items sold or $100,000 in sales. And it took me longer than I expected with that first 1,000 items. And that's how I got there. So anyway, yeah, but they hit it really, really fast. So I was so happy that they, their customers were understanding. They understood because it's different than the platform they were most familiar with. It really was different in terms of how those shipping prices get calculated. And so I was glad about that one. Another one, I'm trying to think. Oh, this is a good one, actually. So I mentioned I do raid trains sometimes. Well, there was this one raid train, and there are some days that your internet is just not cooperating. I will not know if that's the case until after this live is over. I will not know if this video is even viewable or if the audio is garbled. So the seller was really trying to get their show started, and they were online on time, but they were having the hardest time getting, the show activated. So the train ended up going to somebody else. It ended up going to a different show. And once you're there, you're there. So anyway, they kind of lost their spot on the train, even though they were scheduled in that time slot. And I felt so bad about it because, I was the one who was supposed to get them into that next room, but we didn't have time. It's like, I don't see the show. I don't see the person online. I know they're restarting their devices and everything, but we've got somebody else who can take that place. So let's keep it moving. And I felt so bad that they lost their time slot. So I went in to their room and they were still doing their show, but with a much smaller audience than they expected. And we just started chatting. At first, just started texting, sorry, the raid train. They were, a little flustered from the internet problems. And eventually I was like, do you want me to come on and co-host? Do you just want me to come on and co-host? And this is a person who sells fabrics. I've purchased things from this seller, so I know they're a good seller. And so they said, sure, that'll be fun. And so we just, like, for maybe about 15 minutes, they were just showing different fabrics, and I was kind of keeping my eye on the chat and seeing what people requested or what they had purchased before. And I was just kind of like giving my commentary. I don't even remember what I said. I'm like, oh, that, you know what? That is a really good one. That is a very good plaid pattern to go with. Things like that. And then just asking questions like, is it a heavyweight? Like, how many yards do you have available? That kind of thing. So I really was just, kind of keeping the audience entertained while they were doing their fabric showings. And when you do a fabric show, you really have to be organized. Like, you have to have all of your fabrics laid out in stacks and everything. So it's not an easy thing to do. My shows tend to be a lot more follow the room, follow the lead, whatever the audience wants. If it's something I have to sell and it's close at hand, that's the next item. I did hear a little snark once from a seller, and I'm just telling, by the way, if you watch the shows on Whatnot, you hear exactly what I'm describing. So I'm not talking smack or throwing shade, but I took it in good humor. And they said, this show is going to be a little stay home to shop format today, because they hadn't, like, pre-arranged all of their items in different lots and specified the order or whatever. It's going to be like stay home to shop. And I just laughed. I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. But I would love to do more, pre-planned shows. It's just hard to know what people are going to want to see in advance. And when it's live, anything can happen and things can change. Things can change quickly. But that's, again, a reason I thought YouTube and Whatnot would just be the perfect team. And I kind of had to pick a favorite. And I did kind of have to pick Whatnot, because Whatnot does offer me some money for what I'm doing. Whereas on YouTube, I'm not monetized yet. And it seems like it's painfully slow to get there. So we'll see how that goes. But that's another reason why I've been uploading more fun YouTube videos. They're not selling stuff. They're not salesy. They're just more shopping related, where I have a personal interest or specific knowledge. So those are really good. Those are really, really good. And I've even thought about going back and sort of not really re-editing, but like re-enhancing or reformatting, like technically, some of the earliest shopping tutorials that I did, because now what I'm saying, so I did mine in 2001, and it was all online, all digital coupons. Now what I've seen in 2024, but this really started last year, is all the coupon channels have had to kind of make that switch to digital savings. And so I thought it might be interesting, just for historical reference, what kind of deals I was getting I was getting like 3 years ago, and what kind of deals are out there now, because I don't make digital coupon videos the way that I started with. What I learned very quickly was, if I announced super savings that were available online, those deals would get shut down. Like, they would just, instantly the item would be out of stock, or it would no longer qualify for the coupon that I had found it paired well with, whatever the situation was. So I noticed that really early, and I just had to stop and just be like, I can't do that. I can't be the guy who, like, puts the word out, go on this website, order this now, because so many of those just got flagged and stopped. And then there were some where people would actually be able to complete the entire purchase process, but then they would get notified that their order was being canceled. And on those occasions when it happened to me, I did not appreciate it. I did not, that did not make me a happy camper. It's okay. I'm an adult. I can handle myself, but no, I did not enjoy it. Now, some of them did get filled, but you'd have to go back and watch the videos, basically, is what I'm trying to explain. So yeah, so I knew right away I couldn't do those. Some people would say run deals. There's no place to run, but you know, run deals mean run to the store. Again, there's no place to run. Just get on your device. Like fast finger deals, like how fast can you click the order tab? But so I thought about redoing some of those just as kind of like a collection or a collage. But if nobody's going to really want to see that, then I'm not going to do that. So I do rely on the comments a lot, the questions that come in from time to time. There are videos that I have made that, or excuse me, there are videos that I have shot, scripted, like almost 100%. And I don't know. It's one of those things where I kind of have, so I have a certain amount of time each day, as we all do. I have to decide how I'm going to spend it. If I can multitask, that's the best way to use my time. But I think I've given you a lot of shipping tips. And I do want to do more, but this is not the fastest way for me to ship. However, assuming that this video shows or teaches other people, you know, at least one other person, something that they now can do better or would have gotten wrong, but they're going to avoid that whole mistake, then it's well worth it. So let me know in the comments your success stories. And also let me know when you use that $15 promotional credit from Whatnot, because I'd love it, love it, love it if they kept it going. But, you know, at a certain point when these platforms get big enough, they don't always have to put those marketing dollars out there. So while it's still a growing platform, I love telling people about it, but I do understand it can be so aggravating or confusing when I'm telling you I'm selling, you know, vintage dinnerware for $1, but you can't really see that happening unless you're set up with Whatnot. So that's why you want to go to the description box and use the link to get set up there. The number one thing I love about Whatnot is whenever I'm wrong or I get a technical detail inaccurate, people are quick to call me out and correct me. And I don't get upset about it. I thank them. I really, really thank them. Sometimes I thank them multiple times and on future shows, even if they help me avoid a big misunderstanding. For example, with the priority mail, when we were first launching the ship show, there was somebody who went and fact checked and found out that it would have cost more money in 1991 to send a single letter size piece of paper using the priority mail rate back then than it would have cost, or what the customer would have paid for that box that I packed. They would have spent more money to send this in a priority mail envelope back in the 1990s than what I just packed that box full of. And that to me is wild. Now that's not the public rate, that's the Whatnot rate. So the fact that they're offering that, I'm just like, oh yes, I wish I could turn back time. But even if I could go back to the 90s, I wouldn't be able to get these kinds of deals. So that's why you need to get set up and start bookmarking future shows. And until the next time I see you, I hope you can stay home to shop.